This broadcast is brought to you by Colby Brooks with Century 21 Right Pace Real Estate and buyfrombrooks.com. Let Colby Brooks handle all of your real estate needs. The number of cases in Arkansas has risen to 30, and we'll have more news on the coronavirus on this special report as our coverage continues on NEA Report. The president also invoking special powers today, and Northeast Arkansas is almost totally shut down. But a few exceptions remain, and that has a few city leaders concerned too. So we'll talk about a lot of stuff next on NEA Report. Let's do the news.
Now, Stan Morris reporting.
We appreciate you for joining us on NEA Report. This is Stan Morris in Jonesboro, and now talking about the coronavirus being up to 30 confirmed cases in Arkansas, according to the Arkansas Department of Health. The latest numbers released just shortly before noon also show that 50 people or persons under investigation are now in the state. That's people actively being tested. The results can take 3 to 5, up to 6 days, I believe even. People being monitored in an enhanced way due to an increased risk, that's up to 377, and past negative persons under investigation, well, that number at 236. A few extra tests coming back negative there. I want to show you the maps because there's some news there too. You can see on the left side of the screen, the left side with the blue highlights, if you will, that's number of cases that are being confirmed that have spread out a little bit. It's as close to us as Cleburne County, at least according to the map. Most of the cases in Jefferson County, 10 or more, as you see on the legend. Pulaski County having 5 to 9. Now, Washington County, we're talking about Fayetteville now. That has a confirmed case. It was announced by the mayor and the county judge shortly before the numbers were updated by the Department of Health. Over on the right side of your screen, negative COVID-19 tests. That means people were tested, but they were found out to not have it. At least the negative came back on the test. You can see Northeast Arkansas is in there. Several tests having been performed from Randolph, Clay, Lawrence, Craighead, Mississippi, Independence, White, and Cleburne County, which we know has a confirmed 2 cases now. Those tests having been made at least indicates that people are being checked for this, but thus far, nothing verified yet. However, I can tell you, because sources tell me, there are outstanding tests right now, tests that are currently pending, and that people believe that could be a possible case. So it's not... we'll just see what happens, right? Let's go back to the full screens, because also just shortly before we came on the air, the president held a press conference with the U.S. Task Force. FEMA activated in all regions. Also, HUD suspending foreclosures and evictions. He also announced that 2 hospital ships are being prepped as well. Not being deployed yet, but being prepped. So not really sure what that means, but basically preparing for the worst. He's also invoking special powers to produce and to increase the production of medical equipment. Now, some headlines around Northeast Arkansas. Unemployment office is going to be closed to the public, the Department of Workforce office. City offices are basically closed to the public unless you're showing up you have a business that's legitimate, and then they're probably going to screen your temperature there as well. ASU heritage sites will be closed to visitors through April, in addition to the other closings we told you about. We learned yesterday that the Malco is going to be shutting down for the foreseeable future, as well as most fast food restaurants closing in dining. Or inside dining, I guess. Some restaurants remain open, mostly not fast food restaurants in Jonesboro. I noticed McDonald's, Taco Bell, many others on the list that had opted to go with drive-through only. Some restaurants are offering both in area dining, in building dining, and curbside delivery options, but most of them have switched to only curbside delivery. That's because guidance from the President of the United States is no groups larger than 10 in a single room right now. And we'll tell you why. You'll see why more in just a few moments, okay? But in Jonesboro, ASU Museum is closing to visitors. Also, a really nice gesture by Young Investment Group. They're going easy on rent for restaurants. A lot of, I believe, downtown businesses may be renting from them. I know a number of businesses at least are that this applies to, and they have said that for April, they don't expect restaurants to pay rent, instead use the money to pay employees or to, take care of their families. That's the kind of stuff that's going to get us through this. Really nice gesture we wanted to mention. Positives, look for the positives. As Mr. Rogers once said, look for the helpers during crisis, because there's always people that'll be helping others. Hijinks is going to be shutting down in 7-day periods, because that could last for several weeks. We don't know yet. It's kind of a wait and see approach, but they are going to be shutting down. They announced in the last 24 hours. In Jonesboro, especially within our city government, there's concern this is not being taken seriously locally. And city sources believe this could potentially kill millions, because those are the guidance and expectations that are coming from medical experts. Dr. Shane Spites said it could be as bad as 5%, I was told yesterday. And so if the 5% mortality rate applies to even just a million, you would be looking at 50,000, right? And the worry is that a million would not be anywhere close to how many people would be infected. 31 million Americans this season got the flu, and there's a vaccine for that thing. Some local events and gathering spots are remaining open, and it's probably going to become a tumultuous time, because it may be that their business is dependent on that, right? I'm told there's a local bingo hall that may be holding an event later this week. The plan was that it was going to, at least as of today. That would be tremendously, I hesitate to pass judgment, but the feeling is, at least amongst some in the city, it would be irresponsible. But I don't know what's going to take place with that. I'm not verified it with them either, just to say that is the kind of concern that is out there. If people are still having gatherings in their business, unless you're limiting it to 5 or 6 or 7, you're literally violating what the president has asked you to do. It's not breaking the law. He asked us to do this, but the thing is, this is on track right now to being exactly where Italy was several weeks ago. It's following the projections, not the good ones, like South Korea, but the bad one, like in Italy, where hundreds of people are dying a day, and that's out of a very small number of infected compared to what the United States has population-wise. And they have modern medical science, too. That's not a third world country. That's Italy. In many ways, in many places, probably going to be more advanced than the United States in terms of medicine. On Wall Street today, my gosh, it's hemorrhaging. Stocks erased all of the gains that have been made during the Trump presidency. Trading was temporarily halted because stocks fell so deep. And until they close this afternoon, we won't know how bad they're going to go. There was a positive day yesterday as they made about 1,000 points back, now going below the 20,000 mark. On January 19th, 2017, when the president took office, it was 19,732 and 40. Around 12:30 p.m. Eastern Time, 11:30 Central this morning here in Jonesboro, it fell as far as 19,727. It's gone well below that right now. So the latest numbers are going to continue to change. I hesitate to say them just because unless you're watching live, you're probably going to find them to be inaccurate. But monitor that stuff. We're looking at another day with a 10% drop. So I want to tell you why that this is so scary. Globally, as of the latest numbers that I've been able to look up right before we began, 207,000 people infected, 8,200 people dead out of that number. I did the math myself, not looking at somebody else's, 4%. That's about 4%, 3.967 or something to that degree. In other words, 4. So you can do the math yourself, right? But I want to tell you what happens if you apply a 4% mortality rate to the number of Americans that had the flu this season. Well, I told you a second ago what that number was. Do you remember? 31 million. Siri, what is 4% of 31 million?
The answer is 1,240,000.
And I wanted Siri to say that because I know some people are going to accuse the media of fear-mongering. That's 3 times the number of deaths as Americans in World War II. Take this seriously. If you don't, you may not be able to before it's too late. So in that being the case, of course, we're being asked to not panic. And that's tough because if you pay attention to this stuff, it's scary. And fear is one of those natural instincts that evolves for people to survive, right? So are we there yet? Are we going to be there? We don't know, and we hope not. But when the medical experts start talking about this could be in the millions, and you apply that global mortality rate to the number that had the flu, which, by the way, there's vaccines for that in most strains, in most cases. That's scary. Right now, 207,000 people infected. Of that, 8,200 have died. It has a current mortality rate of about 4%. That's probably going to drop. If it dropped to 2%, which is about what it's at in America right now, which is really early, so it's tough to say, that would still be over 600,000 out of 31 million, which is still 200,000 more than number of Americans that died in World War II. Not total people, Americans. Point is, this is to be taken seriously. If you see people not taking it seriously and they're your relatives or loved ones, you might try to reason with them your best, but you may just do your best in that case. Because what can be done? You can't convince people that don't want to listen. And there's a ton of cynics right now online. I can tell you this. When I see people making cynical posts and discrediting the news without any sources whatsoever because they heard or they, that you're probably not going to last long on this website because we're trying to keep people informed that want to be informed. And for the people that don't, what can you do? But right now, that's where we're at, and the stocks are showing it. If you don't believe it, money talks. And that's where a lot of money is going right now, straight down the tubes. We appreciate